Steel Curtain Network.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? And it is time for another Steelers preview podcast. A little bit later than usual. We warned you about this 2 weeks ago. It was 2 weeks ago because last week we didn't have one of these. But still, this is going to be our starting time for the foreseeable future until probably about closer to February. Thank you all for joining us. Those that are just chiming in. But I'm Jeff Hartman, and joining me as always is Bryan Davis and Dave Schofield. Bryan, what's up?
Gentlemen, it's Thursday night, and much better than last Thursday night because I am not at Acrisure Stadium watching a stink fest. I'm with you guys.
Oh, yeah, that was probably no fun. Dave, what's going on?
Well, I tell you, I'm pretty excited because, yeah, we talked about last week, but 1 week from now, at this time, I will have started my Christmas vacation.
Wow.
Okay, but that's how close we are because I'm ready for the holiday. It's almost like it's a miracle on 34th Street. I don't think we're going to be in line for a white Christmas, but we'll make do. It's a wonderful life, but I will have to say this: come this Saturday, I really hope the Steelers' playoff chances don't die hard.
Like what you did there. Very good. Let's get this show off running, and let's start off with, I guess you could say, like, I don't know if you want to call it Visorgate or something like that, but boy, everyone is obsessed with TJ Watt's visor. I was one of those people that was very, very curious. We'll put it that way. TJ Watt met with the media today, Thursday, I believe, before their practice, and he was asked about his visor and why did you come out with visor on? And he said, well, I'm not going to talk about that. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. But this all ties in with the concussion situation, which we'll get to when we get to the injury report. But let's just tell you right off the bat, in case you don't know, TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith both cleared the NFL's concussion protocol from an independent neurologist, not a team physician or anything like that. So they have no game status. They will be playing. But Bryan, what's your take on all you might not know all this stuff because you were at the game, but you're hearing it secondhand. What exactly are your thoughts on this concussion gate, visor gate, whatever you want to call it?
Well, being at the game, I did not know that until later on. I had no idea. That's one of the perils of being in stadium. But first of all, when I think of independent neurologist, I think of a guy in a back alley or I'm like, hey, $20, I'll clear you, buddy.
Yeah. Maybe.
But now, you know what? This is one of those things that I'm a little nervous about because there's going to be an investigation, and I feel like I'm going to just call it like it is. I'm going to put my Howard Cosell hat on, and yeah, this seems a little fishy to me. A little bit, and I have no problem calling out my own team. I kind of think that he was put back out there or decided to go back out there when they should have looked at him for one there, if that's what they're saying. But you never know. There could be some repercussions here, but some other teams like skated through this, like the Bengals last year.
So before I throw it to Dave, I do want to mention something, and that was that TJ Watt was checked multiple times for a concussion in this game. Right after the hit, when he got the knee to the face on the first play from scrimmage, Ezekiel Elliott's knee is what caught him. Went to the blue 10 eventually, got checked again, was clearly being checked on the sidelines. So it wasn't as if the Steelers were just skirting the rules here. Like, he was checked. But Dave, what's your thoughts on all this?
My thoughts is it's kind of simple. If you want to place fault with this with anyone, really it's on TJ Watt. I mean, he's going to do like what Troy would do in the past, and that is you're going to fight and do everything you can to get back out there. So to me, if anything, those doctors, they're not influenced on, how big of a superstar it is or getting the player back out there for them. That is not their job. If that's what they're going to do, they're not going to be around for very long. But you have to actually trust what the player is saying. And I mean, that's kind of the competitor in everyone. And that he wanted to get back out there. He didn't think it was that big of a deal. And for those of you that have had a concussion before, I've had a couple undiagnosed in my life, but from everything that I've understood, that's what was going on. My brother has had them, and even hasn't have them diagnosed. You can go hours without really having symptoms.
Right. Yeah.
So you want to talk about concussion gate? You know who I think who should have been pulled out of a game on Sunday? What about when Gardner Minshew got jacked and stumbled back to the huddle and no one pulled him out to even check him?
I didn't see that.
I saw that. I'm like, oh my, he's not going to be able to play against the Steelers in 6 days. But I mean, and the announcers of that game were like, they're like, don't be surprised if they stop this play. They're going to have to get him out of there and check him. I mean, because he got hit hard. So that's just, and he didn't even get checked from what I understand. Maybe he did and he passed as well. But I mean, and I'm not blaming TJ Watt and saying he did something wrong. He's trying to get back out there. But I'm saying if it went without and he should have been pulled from the game or something, it's because of what he was doing. And every player, because I had to read into a lot of this last year, they do an individual cognitive test with every player during the preseason. And when a new player comes into a team, that they would have to do it then. But that's so that everyone has an individual baseline, because it's not fair to compare Joe Schmo to TJ Watt. That it's not one that the focus is making sure each player is compared to themselves. Just because you're a kind of a player that couldn't answer a math question quick doesn't mean you have a concussion. You might just suck at math. It's just how it goes. Yeah. So they've come so far with it, and maybe, I mean, TJ did that, but I shouldn't say anymore.
Well, it's also amazing how little, even now, the general public knows about concussions, concussion protocols, testing on, like sideline testing. Like I coached lacrosse, which, if you know anything about lacrosse, like there were times where I was coaching in my 13 years as a head coach that there was no athletic trainer at the game. You were the athletic trainer. You were the head coach. You were the athletic trainer. You're taping ankles. You're doing all this stuff. And you were even checking for concussions on kids that got their bell rung and they come off and they're woozy, and you're doing all this stuff. But here's the thing. Visible tests, visible signs are so minimal with concussions. You're relying almost everything on what the athlete is telling you. So you can do the pupil test where you move your fingers back and forth. And if you go to one side, and if they're not following your finger, they're messed up. To get them out of the hell out of the game. But if they're following your finger and it goes really over to the side and the eyeball is jogging, moving back and forth, that's like a telltale sign, like there's something going on. Other than you're asking questions like, you have blurry vision? Are you lightheaded? What about if you look at the lights? Like, does it make you sensitive or anything? Do you feel like you're nauseous? And you're having to answer all these questions. And so TJ Watt, just like Hines Ward said back when he played, and just like Troy probably did, like you mentioned, Dave, they're good. They know how to answer the questions. Hey, are you lightheaded? No. Sensitive to light? No. But here's the thing: when he comes out with the visor on, if I were TJ Watt at the media today, I would have said, "Yeah, I got some dirt kicked up in my eye." So they put a visor on me to protect my eye. It was really annoying, so he just put it on. He was like, "No, I just don't want to talk about it." I'm like, okay, Dave, what are you going to say? You wanted to say something.
Oh, I was going to say, I was never someone who really played Madden, but I remember watching some people play Madden. I think it was in college or just out of college. So this was late 90s, early 2000s. And I remember one of the things it was because they would have Madden throw in his 2 cents, of course, commentating the game. And one of the things is like, there'd be a big hit and they're like, this was on the video game. It said, that's one of those plays where you ask a guy his name and he tells you Tuesday. But that's what it was back then.
Yeah.
Then you can tell there's a concussion. Now it's just,
it's tough.
You got to just trust the doctors. The doctors aren't going to put the player in harm's way. So if the player can, I mean, that's what they're going to do to play. It's just, that's what most of them will do. And the fact that he came in and self-reported the day after, that tells you that that's when he realized it was more. Yeah. But man, he moved through fast. So whether it was actually concussion or not is interesting, because he was able to get through that protocol pretty good.
Well, that shot he took on the first play from scrimmage was nasty. I mean, that knee to the face. I mean, his face mask went all the way into his chin. Brutal. But anyways, we don't want to spend the whole show talking about concussions. That's boring. I do want to bring this up because I want to say something. You know, the Steelers are struggling. You lose 2 games in 5 days to 2-win teams, and sometimes you can be down the dumps, and sometimes creating content about this team can be really challenging. Dave and I had a conversation earlier this week about how you kind of get in a funk and you don't feel like writing articles, and thinking of podcast topics is really tough. But Thomas Riley in our live chat said, I want to thank Steel Curtain Network for taking my mind off of things. I love your shows. My mom passed away on November 17th of this year. You helped me get through this time. It's stuff like this. And I got a personal text message from another one of our listeners recently saying they were going through some struggles. And I was like, you know what? It's one of those things that I don't ever like when you're in that funk and you're thinking about the Steelers, you don't think that some people rely on you for the coverage and for you to just, what did we say during 2020? If for 30 minutes you can listen to my Let's Ride or Stat Geek or Bad Language and it takes your mind off of any other craziness that's going on in your life, then we're doing our job. So Thomas, thank you for the kind words. We're sorry for your loss. We are one big family here. I swear that is the truth. But no, yeah.
And maybe the Steelers will come through with a tie for you this week, Thomas. For those of you that don't know, every week on Scobro, Thomas predicts a tie every week.
I love it. Yeah, God bless you and your family.
Yeah. All right. So, Brian, you know the answer to this question, I'm sure. When was the last time the Steelers lost to the Indianapolis Colts? What year was it?
Yeah, trivia. No joke.
That would be a home game in 2008.
That's correct. That is correct. So there's quite the streak going on right now. It's quite the streak. And, you know, you look at the Steelers are coming off the mini bye. The Colts are going to have they don't have to travel, but they're going to have short days, one less day to get ready. And that's the injury report. The injury report is going to be huge. And the Steelers injury report, like I mentioned at the very beginning, talking about the concussions, has changed slightly. So let's talk about that. Dave, do you have that in front of you?
Yep.
All right, go ahead and read the Steelers. Shouldn't take you long. Okay. We actually have the game report now. The game status is so weird.
I don't need to bother talking about practice. We're not talking about practice. Although I do have to say, how does a team lose 3-0 on Sunday and in the first half now an extra point away from 35 points?
It's the NFL, man. You don't know what's going to happen
right now.
You don't know what's going to happen. Like, that's the NFL.
Yeah. So if you think there's no hope for the Steelers offense because, they can't put up any points or anything, this team lost a game 3-0 on Sunday, and they now have 35 points before halftime.
And they don't have their star running back. Josh Jacobs is not playing in this game.
One of their best 3 players, I would say, on the team isn't playing.
Anyway,
their top 3 players would go.
The injury report for the Steelers is...
Yeah, that's what was like. I was just going to say, I am not going to give you who practiced and who didn't.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
All that leads up to the game status that we normally get on Friday, but now we have on Thursday this week and next week. Game status. The Steelers had 3, but now it's only 2. Kenny Pickett's out. You know, that one was just taken for granted. We all knew that. And the Steelers had 2 players questionable, Isaac Seumalo and Alex Highsmith. Alex Highsmith, after the report came out, 20 minutes after the report came out, then it was, hey, he cleared from the independent neurologist. He's out of the protocol. His status has been removed. So all you got is a questionable Isaac Seumalo. I will say about him, he did not practice all week. He was DNP every day. But I don't know that that's necessarily going to stop him from playing because of who he is and everything else. When it comes to the Colts, go ahead and do the Colts now.
Yeah, go ahead. Might as well.
Okay. They have 2 players ruled out to tackle Braden Smith with a knee and running back Jonathan Taylor with the thumb. And then they have a linebacker, Segun Olubi, I guess, is questionable.
Okay. Brian, what do you think about that injury report for either team?
Back in college, I had a bad case of Segun Olubi. It was, I got an antibiotic and I was okay.
Went to the beehive too many times.
Yeah, that Jonathan Taylor is a big deal. However, I want to actually quote Shannon White. He was making a sarcastic comment on our Slack channel today. He's a big deal. It's not like the Steelers have beat other teams that had major injuries, but I'm bringing that up, but that is a big deal for this team. They can focus a lot more on Garden I'll have the Garden Minshew, please. You know what I'm saying, Gardner Minshew, and I think that's a big on the Steelers end. I always want Isaac Seumalo in there. I think we are finding out that he is that it took him a little bit of time to get into the swing of things, but I really think he is going to be one of the anchors of that offensive line and a very important player. So we knew about Kenny Pickett. Love to have Kenny Pickett in that game, but he's not going to be there. But having those concussion guys back, that's a big deal.
Did Seumalo play on Thursday night?
Yep.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. I don't think he practiced. So I wouldn't be shocked if he does play. I mean, if that's the precedent that, hey, this guy doesn't need to practice, and if he's ready to go, he'll go. And I think that the right side of the offensive line is really developing with Broderick Jones at tackle and James Daniels at right guard. So, I think they'll be okay if they can go, if they have to go a game without him, but you want him in there. You want to have that complete five, especially with Mason Cole and how questionable he can be at times. But I also know from my Let's Ride podcast that will debut tomorrow, my Behind Enemy Line segment, that at the same time that the two guys that were on the cover of the Colts for Fans First Sports Network, that they were like, yeah, I don't know if this tackle's going to play. And I said, well, just before we recorded this, TJ Watt was cleared. He's going to play. They said, crap, because that means there's going to be a backup tackle. They're going to have to move their offensive line around. So I think that the injury to the tackle for the Colts is also going to be significant in a lot of ways. And if TJ Watt is healthy and if he's a little bit he looks tired as hell. I mean, that's the best way I could put it. It's tough to gauge on Thursday night when they're coming off of a game just a few days before, but he and Alex Highsmith, I really wish they'd use Nick Herbig. I don't think Marcus Golden will be inactive. Dave, you didn't predict him to be inactive again, did you?
No way. No way. I
was shocked they did that.
I need to at least address that, but yeah. No. No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. Don't do it again. No.
They gambled and it almost burned them. But I would like to see Nick Herbig play a little bit more, and obviously Golden as well. But when you think about this game on the road, mention the Steelers' success against the Colts, historically speaking, at least since 2008, Peyton Manning was the quarterback. What do you all think are like some of the keys to victory for the Steelers in this game? Because I think this is such weird, two backup quarterbacks. Jonathan Taylor's not playing, but Zach Moss is still capable. Steelers want to run the ball. I don't know. Brian, we'll start with you. What's one of your keys to victory in this game?
I would say stop the screen pass to the running back. Zeke Elliott hurt them with that, especially on that first touchdown. And, stop Zach Moss as well, because you still, without Jonathan Taylor Thomas in there. Sorry, that's the Home Improvement reboot they're gonna do. Without Jonathan Taylor in there.
I meant to say I'll be home for Christmas is one of those at the beginning. That just made me think about it.
Is Tim Allen in that reboot?
I think he is. I know Wilson's not.
He's dead, Brian.
Well, then that's why he's not.
Is the Jonathan Taylor from the Colts going to play Jonathan Taylor Thomas? That might be awkward.
Hey, it's 2024, when this is coming out, so anything could happen.
Stepson Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
It's the child of Jonathan Taylor and Shamarko Thomas.
See, the problem here is when we start at 9:20, it's after party time. We just haven't done the actual show first.
The one thing I love, we've been doing the show for a long time now, the three of us, and I know I can stretch the boundaries because Jeff, you think he's serious, and he is. He's a serious journalist. He's good at this. But then when you turn around, you throw those at him. He piles on. He loves them, and Dave as well. I have no clue what I was just saying.
You're talking about the screen passes,
Yeah,
and being able to stop Zach Moss because JTT's not playing.
yeah. I mean, Zach Moss is just as dangerous. We have seen that. Ramondre Stevenson was not in that game, and people were like, "Hey, that's a break," and Zeke killed him. So Zeke last week, Zach this week. The Z's that we need to see is them putting them to sleep, and not the Steelers defense.
I have to admit, I fully expected you to call him Zach Morris. You're going to go Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Why not go Zach Morris?
I have a Zach Morris ornament that my wife got me last year. And if you press the button, it plays the Saved by the Bell theme.
Yeah. Not the song they played when they were the band.
Oh,
when they joined the band.
Zach Attack.
So bad.
Zach Attack. I'm so excited. I'm so scared.
When she's on amphetamines, it wasn't she or something.
Yeah, and then she went stripping in that movie. So, that was the end of it.
That wasn't a bad movie, though. Anyways, Dave.
Check, please.
Dave, what's your key to victory?
I was going to say, what's the question again? Okay. I will say this. JTT, Jonathan Taylor, has been out the last 2 games. In those games, the Colts have rushed for 55 yards and 46 yards. So the Steelers, they need to shut down the run. To me, I think the biggest key for the Steelers, especially when it comes to defense and dealing with the Colts, he should be back enough. Landon Roberts has to stay on the field for every snap. It was early in the game, they were trying not to overwhelm him. And you just you don't get cute early. If you need to adjust some things as you go, that's fine. But you gotta just go with your game plan. You've had 9 days, just go with it.
I think the Steelers defense, a lot of fans get kind of upset with Mike Tomlin when he's always like, well, the defense could have done better. The defense could have done better. Hey, he has high expectations for his defense. I don't think he has that high of expectations for the offense. But the one thing that's really dried up, I mean, a lot of things have gone wrong. Like the bend don't break. Now they're breaking in the red zone, but the turnovers, the takeaways have really dried up. They just haven't been getting them in bunches like they were earlier in the season. I think a lot of that is because the opposing quarterbacks are trying to get the ball out of their hands really quick. They're not going to let the pass rush get there. This is a game that, boy, you would love to get a couple turnovers, a couple takeaways, set up your offense with prime field position, add points on your own. I don't care. If they win this game, like week 2 Monday Night Football against Cleveland, where you had 14 points scored by the defense, you will not hear me crying and bemoaning that victory. Win the freaking game. Find a way to win this game. It's all you got to do. But so I'm focusing on the takeaways. I'm going to pull a Tomlin here. Let's see if the defense can step up their game and really help out the offense. Brian, anything else from you? Keys to victory you're thinking of?
Yeah, you definitely need to stop Gardner Minshew as well, because he knows how to sling it. I think I consider him one of the best backups in the entire NFL. And I don't want to move him to starter for any team, but if you have to, you don't want to start off 2024 with Gardner Minshew, but knowing that you have him, I think the Colts have the best situation. He's a guy I would have loved to have seen in black and gold, and I think someday you will see him in black and gold.
What about you, Dave?
Well, I'll try to talk over my dog going crazy right now for some reason. Maybe she just saw the score of the Monday night game.
She a Raider fan?
What's that?
She a Raider fan?
No. It's like I couldn't go with anything then. Sorry. What Seattle has 2 losses. What was it?
Any other keys to victory?
Any other? Okay, let's. You mentioned about taking the ball away. To me, you've got to take care of it. Coach Tomlin mentioned on Monday, and the Colts have been really good, especially their last 5 games, of taking the ball away. They have thrived off of takeaways, and they've really picked up their pressure on quarterbacks the last 5 games. Half their sacks for the season were in the last 5 games. I talked about that on Stat Geek this morning. So you really need to take care of the football. And I know with Steelers fans, that makes them kind of cringe. Because if one thing you've learned from good old Risky Bisky is that you're probably going to get a turnover or perhaps in the game. But I'm hoping with the extra time that maybe that's to prepare for this one. Maybe that could be minimized.
Yeah. I'll answer this. Captain Underpants says, would you be okay with 3-0, Jeff? To be honest with you, yes. I would be okay with a win that's 3. Would I be ecstatic? No, of course you want some offensive production, but I don't think Minnesota Vikings fans were upset with their 3-0 victory. And I don't think that the Chargers were complaining about a 6-0 win over the Patriots, because you just need to find ways to win. And so when the Steelers have 4 games left and you're trying to make the postseason and you just lost 2 games to 2 bad teams, no, I'm not going to complain about that. I really won't. Would I love to see a better outing? Absolutely. But at this stage of the game, Dave talked about it on that Geek podcast Thursday morning. This 4-4. This is a final stretch. Like, this is the last quarter. If you want to break it down like we used to, it's the last quarter. Win the football games. You play to win the game. All right, this segment's gone on long enough. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about over-unders. We're going to give game predictions and the everlasting Steelers trivia. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, Steeler fans, welcome back. Thank you for sticking around. It's time for us to do the best worst game ever, and that is the over-under game. We did not have it last week. I'm looking back at my sheet for the Arizona game. Why? That's awful.
I got it.
You got it. How did we do?
One of us did better than half of them right. The other 2 each had 1.
Jeez.
Jeff, you only got 1 right.
Yeah, I know that.
I only got 1 right. Brian got 3. Brian closed the gap a little bit. Brian closed the gap. He took Brian took 3 unders and 2 overs, and every under he took hit. So Brian, that means he closed up a little bit. He's got 23. Jeff's got 26. I got 29.
Oh, I'm still sucking.
That's not too far off.
A couple more weeks like that, Brian, you're going to be right behind me and ahead of Jeff.
Yeah, very possible. It could happen. Okay. So we didn't have it against the New England game. It's probably a godsend. So let's now talk about the Colts game.
Well, no, let's just say we did. We all were over. We'll just say that.
Like the team.
Yes.
All right. So this time I'm going to go Pittsburgh Steelers rushing yards, team rushing yards. I'm going to go 140 and a half. 140 and a half. A lot of thought process here. What do you think, Brian?
They don't have the passing game to take the onus off of those guys, so I'm going to go under.
Okay. Dave, what do you think?
Brian's going under with Steelers rushing for under that. The Colts are one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. I'm going over.
I see both. I see Brian's point here. I do. If they can't throw it, are they going to stack the box? But it's team. So I think that, old Mitch might get some scrambles in there and add a couple yards that way. Maybe they do a little end around a CA3. I'm going to go over. I'm going to take the over.
Over the last 5 games, the Steelers are averaging 148.4 yards. So that was a pretty good line to put there.
Nice line, yeah.
You're welcome. Anyways, let's go with Mitchell Trubisky total yards. So this is total, not just passing, total yards. 205
rushing.
Yeah,
wow.
205 and a half. Brian, what do you think?
I could also, if I'm a complete pessimist, I'm going to go under, but I really see that being over because Mitch does sling the pill around. He's gonna sling it in the wrong direction too, but I could see him being 107. My gosh, even if he had 195 yards, that's and 20 yards rushing, he's over that. Yeah, definitely. Let's go over.
Okay, Dave.
Believe it or not, I'm actually going to go under
Yeesh.
because I would hope that he doesn't even have to, or he's just not able to.
Good Lord, that's depressing. I'm going to go over. Stay positive, Jeff. Just stay positive. Okay, let's go to the next one. Pat Fryermuth receiving yards. Pat Fryermuth receiving yards. I've got it at 45.5. Brian, thoughts?
He should go over, but every time I think he should do something, he doesn't. Go in under.
Okay, Dave.
Yeah, I thought they were finding it with him and it kind of regressed. I'm going to go under as well.
You know, Merrill Hodge calls out the tight ends. He says they look like a bunch of turtles humping each other or something like that. I don't know.
Whenever they're blocking, he said it looks like two turtles.
Why? Gosh, what kind of porn is Merrill Hodge watching?
I did not get the analogy. They heard turtles humping. Like, what are you talking about? You can say they suck at blocking. I don't know why the analogy got thrown in there. I think Muth might be a little fired up. I think he might have a little incentive. I'm going to show them not what turtles humping look like, but I'm going to show them what a tight end can do. Taking the over. Muth.
I already wrote it down. I assume that's what you're doing.
Okay. Defensive takeaways. Talked about that in the first half. Key to victory. 1.5. Brian, over under.
I can honestly say that they should go over in this situation. As much as Minshew likes to slip, he is also like Mitch. He's gonna make a mistake or two. And so there's fumble opportunities here. I have no problem saying over on this. 2 is definitely doable. They did it last week.
They had 2 last week? Or Indy did?
No, I'm sorry. Pittsburgh. Didn't Pittsburgh get an
They had the
interception?
Michael Walker interception, but they didn't have another one, did they?
Well, because the block punt isn't a turnover.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, so no.
But it acts like one.
But it doesn't count statistically. So we got to make sure we throw that in. So, Brian, you still saying over?
I'm still saying over.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. That's all. I don't care which one you go. Dave, what about you?
I'm going to go over on this one as well, just because I would not be shocked if this game has more turnovers than what we've seen in the Steelers game for a while, just roundabout. I mean, for both sides. The key is keeping the margin down. Or coming out on the advantage.
Welcome to the overs club. I'm taking the over.
Oh, of course.
I think the Steelers get at least 2. And then lastly, Steelers sacking Minshew Mania, whoever's back there. 1.5. I haven't gotten to the quarterback at a great clip recently. Nonetheless, Brian, what do you think?
I'm going to go over. I'm not the king of wishful thinking, but I'm actually quite pessimistic lately. But that should be a given. They should get 2.
Okay, Dave.
Well, yeah, but I'm going to go over as well because of 2. If it had been 2.5, I probably would have gone with the under.
I would have too.
Just because the Steelers are averaging 2 sacks a game over the last 5 games. The Colts are averaging just under 2 sacks a game that they're giving up. I mean, they're 1 sack shy of it being exactly the same. So from a numbers crunching perspective, it makes sense.
Okay, I'm going to go over. All overs for Jeff. Wishful thinking.
Jeff is all over.
Just stay positive. Just stay positive. Okay, let's talk about predictions for the game now. The Pittsburgh Steelers are getting 1.5. The last line that I saw is Steelers plus 1.5 on the road with a total of 42.5. So that's Steelers plus 1.5 and a total of 42.5. Brian, how do you see this game playing out? And what is your score prediction?
All right. I don't like this game. I'm actually quite nervous about this football game and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's going to be close, but the final score will be closer than what this game actually is. There's going to be garbage time touchdown for the Steelers. So I'm going to go ahead and say 24-20 in favor of the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh.
So, and that would give you the over.
Barf.
Yeah, I'm not happy about it.
Okay. Dave, what about you?
Okay, well, let's see here. Man, 42 points in the first half. That just is blowing my mind right now. There are so many things that I could see as to why the Steelers would bounce back in this game. There are so many. Jeff mentioned something about Coach Tomlin calling out the defense. Do you know why he calls out the defense? Not because the expectation's higher for them. It's because you have more veteran players there that will respond to being called out. I have a feeling if the offense get calls out, they would huddle up in a corner and cry themselves to sleep. It's just who they are right now. They don't have the leadership, so therefore calling out the defense. And honestly, 18 points should have been enough to beat the Patriots last week. But you could look at the extra time. I look back at that Patriots game, like, man, there were some red flags that we really should have seen. Trubisky's coming in to start with one practice on the short week. Not only that, they're preparing for a new quarterback and everything on a short week with an offensive coordinator and play caller that was going to be their third game. It's when that's not the case for their opponents. There was a lot of things that could have been a big red flag for the Steelers, but it just seemed like the Patriots were sucky enough and the Steelers weren't that they would still win the game. We were wrong. But I could see the defense completely turning it around, shutting this down. I could see the offense, not killing them, getting it done, not being anything flashy, but not being where we think they're completely inept. I could absolutely see that, especially now that the Steelers' back is up against the wall. But 2 is a pattern, and I'm not letting them fool me again. They've got to prove to me that they're going to win before I actually believe and predict they're going to win. Although I can see it easily happen. I easily see the way it could happen. I just don't – I'm not ready to do that again. I've got 23-16 Colts because, once again, I don't see the Steelers scoring enough points.
All right, it's time for the real fan to give his prediction now on the Steelers preview. I kept on thinking about the Who song, "We Won't Get Fooled Again," when Dave was like, "You're not going to fool me." Okay, so
it's not that we can't win this game, and it's not that I can't. I mean, I can see that pathway. It's just that path is narrow, and you have to assume. I mean, if the defense gives the Colts a lead early again, like they did with the Patriots, do you really think? I mean, people want to rail on Kenny Pickett a bunch, but you know what Kenny Pickett does? He wins football games. Mitch Trubisky, not so much. Okay, I there's just so much more faith that the Steelers could stay in it. Right now, I just don't have that faith until they can show me, hey, this is really who we are, not these last 2 weeks. Sorry.
That's okay. So I was actually expecting a really low scoring game here. And when I did the behind enemy line segment after we recorded, I was talking with the guys from the Colts coverage, and they said they asked me what my prediction was. And I told them kind of what I was thinking. It wasn't anything final. They said, well, just so you know, Shane Steichen's offense has only been held under 20 points 2 times this season. They said they put up points. And I was like, that's interesting. That's really
last week.
Huh?
One was last week against one of the worst defenses in the league.
So then the other one was when they went to Germany.
Yeah.
So that was the only 2 times they've been held. Like they put up 38 points, I think, against Cleveland. So like they can put up some points against some decent defenses. I think the Steelers, there are teams that just have your number. And I think the Steelers seem to always have the Colts number. It just, I don't know what it is. It's weird. Lucas Oil Field doesn't really, ever since they stopped pumping in music and stuff to make it more difficult to play, and back when Tony Dungy was there, I see the Steelers winning this by the skin of their teeth. I've got Steelers 21, Colts 20. Just in the under, really close. 21-20, Colts get Mitch slapped. How about that?
Oh, I love it.
So I think it's going to be interesting. I could see there are some people with some really dire predictions in the live chat. I could see everything. This team is so difficult to predict. So difficult to predict. Hey, but Pez didn't pick them this week, so no kiss of death. So I'm hopeful there. And so we'll see if that comes to fruition. But there you go. So you guys are picking the Colts. I've got the Steelers Let's see who comes out.
I can't
on the
wait to
winning
be wrong. I can't wait.
Can't wait to be right. There you go. All right. Let's go to trivia. Brian, what do you got?
All right. So there has been a lot of scuttlebutt. There's been a lot of Mike Tomlin hating this week. And so with that comes, somebody comes up with the idea, well, the Washington Commanders need a quarterback, and Mike Tomlin is from Washington area, from Virginia, so that'd be
Newport
perfect.
News.
Yeah. I get
They're
it.
really not all that close. It's just
No.
the closest one.
I get it.
Landover and Newport News. Now you're talking about Jay Glazer. That's what Jay Glazer said.
Yeah.
He's
And they don't need
Virginia-
a quarterback. They
Virginia-
need a coach. You think they need a coach, right?
But
Virginia is a big state.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry. go ahead.
everybody's going to jump on that. And now it's like, I hear Tomlin's going to get traded. I'm like, first of all, trades in the NFL don't happen very often. How many trades do you feel have happened since 1970?
You mean trading coaches?
Trading coaches.
Well, were you counting you're counting an example, Sean Payton going to Denver and then the Denver having to send the draft capital
That's
to
a trade.
That's a
Yeah,
trade,
that's-
right?
That
You're
is
kind of-
considered a trade.
okay. So that's that. There's that one. There was the Tampa Bay with Gruden.
With Gruden.
It's two. I still don't think this has happened often, so I'm going to say 4.
Dave.
I'll go 5.
It's actually 8.
Mm.
Okay.
And it's funny because 7 of those guys were Super Bowl winning coaches involved in those trades. The one that wasn't was the only one that had a losing record before he was traded and a losing record after he was traded. Everybody else had winning records on both sides of the equation. And I'm going to count Sean Payton because right now he's at 7-6. So with that being said, who was the only coach that did not win a Super Bowl that was traded?
You mean never won one even after he was traded? Or
Never won a Super Bowl
Okay.
as a head coach.
I was going to say Tony Dungy hadn't at the time, but did eventually. Okay.
But Tony Dungy was never
He
traded.
wasn't traded.
Oh, that's right. He was fired. I can't even think.
I couldn't even name you the other 6 coaches.
No, I couldn't either.
Traded.
Well, that's a part of this trivia as well. So the coach that never had a winning season beforehand was Herm Edwards. So didn't we quote Herm Edwards earlier in the show?
Yeah.
In 2006, the Jets traded Herm Edwards to the Chiefs. And before that trade, Herm was 39-41. And after that trade, 15-33. So that didn't work out.
Jeez.
But
Right.
every other coach was, in this case, Super Bowl winners.
Was Belichick rated when he went to be with the Jets, and then was it the Jets and then backed out? Did they have to actually trade to then get him? Or am I not thinking right?
Yes,
Was he one of the 8? Is my question.
he is one of the 8.
Okay.
And it's funny because the Jets and Patriots have pulled off 2 trades together, and they were both guys named Bill.
Because the other one was Parcells, right?
Bill Parcells was the other one. And the other part of this equation that I want to talk about, the Colts, the Steelers' opponent this week, were the first team to trade a head coach. Who was that?
I don't know if I could
No clue.
name.
This should be easy, but
I mean, because I think of
it's
course
not.
it's got to be pre-Parcells. So
no, I'm talking about the Colts.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
just saying if Parcells was traded and the Colts were the first team to do it, it had to happen obviously before Parcells was traded. So you're talking back then. I don't know. Well, since we're talking playoffs, we can say Jim Mora. We'll just throw that out there.
Don Shula.
It wasn't. I almost said Shula.
Yes. So, real quick, Don Shula from the Colts to the Dolphins, Bill Parcells in 1997 from the Patriots to the Jets. From the Packers to the Seahawks, 1999, Mike Holmgren. Bill Belichick from the Jets to the Patriots in 2000. This is the most interesting one. I could have put a question on this one. John Gruden from the Raiders to the Buccaneers, and John Gruden turned around and beat the Raiders in the Super Bowl that very year.
Yeah.
That's 2002 and 2006. We already mentioned Herm Edwards. 2019, the Cardinals traded Bruce Arians to the Buccaneers. And in 2023, Sean Payton from the Saints to the Broncos. All of those men, except for Herm Edwards, have won Super Bowls either before or after those trades.
Interesting stuff. Good trivia.
And the last time the Washington franchise was looking for a head coach, there was still rumors then that they were going to trade for Mike Tomlin.
That's always going to be a rumor. I would not bet my house that would ever happen. I don't see the Steelers trading him.
Tomlin did grow up a Redskins fan, though. Idolized Joe Gibbs. So, anyways, good stuff. Dave, time for your trivia.
All right. When was the last time the Steelers lost to the Indianapolis Colts?
I win. 2008.
Seriously. Well, that was part of my trivia, because the other thing with that specifically, before I went in another direction, was in that game, the Steelers lost 24-20. There was a player for the Steelers who scored 2 touchdowns. Who scored the 2 touchdowns?
Moelde Moore.
That is correct. It was Moelde Moore.
Sorry, Jeff. I just jumped.
Nope, wouldn't have gotten that. Go ahead. You're fine.
Okay. So now the next question kind of goes a little bit with something that I was talking about on StatGeek. Hold on just a second. I gotta bring up my information. When is the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers lost a regular season game that was played on a Saturday?
We're talking regular season game.
Regular season, not postseason.
They lost.
Regular season game played on a Saturday that they lost.
And you said this in StatGeek, didn't you?
I didn't say it in StatGeek. I did.
I remember you talking about it. I just can't remember.
Under Tomlin and how they had lost on a Saturday in the regular season under Tomlin. So there's a hint.
For 2007.
Well, I'll tell you this. I remember them playing in 2004, Ben's rookie year, but they won against the New York Giants. So
that's correct. They won 33-30.
I think it's before then.
You would be correct.
Wow, this is tough. I would go ahead and say, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say 1985 against the New York Giants.
1985 with the New York Giants. They did play them on a Saturday, and they did lose. But that is not the most recent one.
Okay.
The most recent one actually came in 1999 in Kansas City, where they lost 35-19.
I do remember
week 15, exactly 1 week before Christmas.
Yes, I remember that game now.
But since then, they have won 5 straight regular season Saturday games, including last year when they played on Christmas Eve. The last 3 times they've played on a Saturday, it was Christmas Eve. In 2022, 2011, and another one?
2004.
2004 was when they played the Giants.
Yes.
33-30. That was not Christmas Eve. That was a week before.
Oh, we're talking Christmas Eve.
The last 3.
Was it against the Rams?
The one against the Rams was the 2011 one.
2011.
Didn't they play the Browns one time? And they beat the hell out of them.
Yes, they did. That was in 2005, 41-0 on Christmas Eve.
Hold on a second, boys.
That was a day game, and I remember the headline on Christmas morning when the newspaper came out in Wheeling, West Virginia. It said "Seasons Beatings," and it was just a great headline. Good.
I
Is
have
that
a
the game?
picture from that game. This is that game because Debo is body slamming a fan.
Oh yeah.
That was 41-0, I think.
40. Yep, that's what I said. 41-0.
I remember that only because of the Seasons Beatings headline the next day, because it was on Christmas Eve, and that was the Christmas morning. The Wheeling Intelligencer. That was the headline. Seasons Beatings. It was great Christmas.
Smart headline from the Intelligencer.
You got it.
But
yeah,
since 1995, the Steelers are 7-1 on regular season Saturday games.
There you go.
But Jeff, you're right, because it's just something about the Colts. Because I remember the Steelers playing the Colts. Last year they beat them, but the time they played them the year before, I remember sitting in your living room, not at your current residence, but at your previous one. Actually, two residences.
Right.
Anyway, and that was the one game that in 2020 that the Steelers won over the last 6 games. That was their only win. And they played terrible the first half. Yeah, they played terrible the first half, came back in the second half, won the game. And there was some people that just thought everything was fixed. And I'm like, one half of football does not fix what's going on with this team. And then we saw it. But that was just, if there was a team they were going to beat over that last stretch, it was going to be the Colts. You're right. They're just one of those teams that they seem to have their number.
Absolutely. All right, good stuff. Dave, is that it?
Oh yeah.
All right, good stuff. All right, Brian, why don't you some final thoughts?
All right, my final thoughts are simple. This time of year, a Saturday game for the Pittsburgh Steelers, like Dave just said, it's rare. It does not happen a lot, but it really shows that this is a great honor to be moved to this game, because both, if you look at it right now, if the season had ended before today, the Steelers are the number 6 seed. The Colts are the number 7 seed. And a lot of people expect that to change. And if you are quite pessimistic, then you're going to go ahead and you'll feel the same thing. But just because I'm picking against the Steelers does not mean that I don't believe that they can turn this thing around and in time to get Kenny Pickett back. And so that's something that I'm thinking. Mitch has had some wins in him. He had a very important win last year against Carolina as a starter. It's going to happen sometimes. And, Mitch has a win coming to him. And this could be this weekend. Even though I'm not picking it, I'm believing it can happen, and I'm hoping like crazy.
Good stuff. Dave, what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are, I'm just tired of picking the Steelers and then losing. Something's got to change. That's why I pick against them. I'd much rather lose picking against them. So, but this team really could come out and show something. Or we could end up tuning in, anticipating it all, and seeing more of the same. I really don't know. But it's been a week. We still got 2 more days till this game. So it's one of those things where are they going to just give the same product on the field, or was that quote unquote mini bye at the perfect time to head into the final quarter of the season? That if you could really pick a time to do that, because I've said time and time again, when people ask me, "Oh, who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl?" Look at the teams that are going 3-1 and 4-0 in the last quarter of the season. So any team that's in position to make the playoffs by winning the rest of their games is, I think, in a pretty good position. Now, some people are like, man, you're talking playoffs about the Steelers team. You're even going to mention the word Super Bowl. My thing is, so many times we've seen the Steelers come together and really play well at the end of the season. I just don't know that this year's going to be that year that they can. But if they can pull out a win this week and then say, oh, then you just got to worry about winning the next one in your final home game. Then maybe you get your quarterback back. then maybe you start to even feel even a little bit better. But none of that can happen without going into Indianapolis and giving maximum effort. Got to play hard when you go in there and finding a way to win that game, no matter what. Who cares if you gain more yards? Win the friggin' game.
So I'm not like my final thoughts. You can listen to Let's Ride on Friday, but still, I want to say this: if you haven't listened to our Steel City Insider, which is Jim Wexel, it's only on our audio side. You're not going to see anything on YouTube or anything like that. It's every Wednesday at noon. When he quotes that the Steelers are having good practices, that typically equates in a good performance. And this week, he already said they're coming off back-to-back really good practices. I was like, I heard that, Jim, and I have a little bit of an optimistic feeling about the preparation this week, so we'll see. Take that for what it's worth. All right. Good show, gentlemen. As always, we'll be back next week to preview another Saturday game, this one against the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's hope for the best. We'll be back, all three of us, right, on the post-game show. I know I'll be there. Dave, yep. Brian, you're going to be there?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so make sure you check us out on Saturday after the game. In the meantime, Dave, send us out like you always do.
Hey.
We'll see you next week for another Steelers preview.
Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.